Okay, so today we are talking about 9.6, which is globalized culture after 1900. So here is the objective that is in your unit guide and also came from the College Board. It says that you should be able to explain how and why globalization changed culture over time. So my response to this is, well, globalization has always changed culture. Here are some examples. The spread of Buddhism along the Silk Roads, for example, where as it spreads out of India, that's a bad color to use, as it spreads out of India, it changes, right? It becomes Zen Buddhism in Japan, right? It becomes Mahayana, it becomes Theravada, right? And it changes as it goes. If we were to look at Borobudur in Java, look, Borobudur. Where you would see how it changes, how Buddhism changes. Or what about the spread of Islam? How Islam changes, right? Especially as it gets into West Africa and it becomes Islamized. I meant to include the Great Mosque at Jenne to talk about the Africanization of Islam, right? Which is in here. Or what about when it goes to India, right? And it changes there. I did get, however, a quote from our friend Ibn Battuta about his time in West Africa to kind of talk about how cultures have changed as they've interacted with other cultures. And he says, upon his time that he's spending in West Africa, the women there have friends and companions among the men outside their own families. And the men in the same way have companions amongst the women of other families. A man may go into his house and find his wife entertaining her companion, but he takes no objection to it. One day at Iwalaton, I went into the Qadi, who is a judge. I went to his house after asking his permission to enter. I found with him a young woman of remarkable beauty. When I saw her, I was shocked and turned to go out, but she laughed at me instead of being overcome by shame. And the Qadi said to me, "Why are you going out? She is my companion." And I was amazed at their conduct, for he is a theologian and a pilgrim to Mecca to boot, a Haji. I was told that he had asked the Sultan's permission to make the pilgrimage that year with his companion. Whether this one or not, I cannot say, but the Sultan would not grant it, right? And Ibn Battuta gets super judgy about the women in West Africa. He's like, I can't believe that they talk. I can't believe that they're around. I can't believe that they aren't completely covered. But that's how Islam changed and adapted to West African culture. Or what about the arrival of Christianity in the Americas? Right? That has a huge change. Here we see the Virgin Mary, and she's the mountain Potosi, right? So, kind of taking in that Andean mother goddess feeling, that's what she does here. The same here with the Virgin of Guadalupe, right? When we looked at the Virgin of Guadalupe oh so long ago, we talked about how the location where this image, this vision of the Virgin Mary appears to Juan Diego is the same location, like the place where they end up building the church in her honor is the same location where there used to be an Aztec mother goddess temple. So this, right, syncretism is definitely an example of globalization. This section in your textbook is called the quote, globalization of Christianity. Or what about Meiji Japan, where they adopt Western culture and Western clothing styles? All of this is example, all this are examples, all of these are examples of globalization of culture. So what in specific does the College Board want us to know? It says political and social changes of the 20th century led to changes in the arts, and in the second half of the century, popular and consumer culture became more global. So here are some examples. A really great example of global pop culture would be K-pop. This is, I believe it's BTS, a very famous K-pop band. What's unique about them is that most of their songs are in Korean. So it's not even like they're a Korean band who's singing in English to try and get a global audience that way? No, like they're singing in Korean. And if you want to listen, you like have to figure out Korean. Or reggae. Reggae is kind of an older example, definitely from kind of the 50s on, to come out of a little place in Jamaica. So the example we're gonna look at is Bob Marley's Redemption Song, right? Because then you have like a bunch of middle class white people in the United States who are listening to this song about decolonization, which is something that they didn't have to experience. So here, the lyrics: "Old pirates, yes, they rob I." What pirates is he talking about, right? He's talking about the pirates of colonization, of the British colonization of Jamaica. "Sold I to the merchant ships." He's talking about like how are there African people of African descent in Jamaica? There are people of African descent in Jamaica because of the slave trade. "Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit." Right? Think about that in terms of a slave ship. "But my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty." So religion. "We forward in this generation triumphantly." Right? So we're finally going to break this cycle. "Won't you help to sing this song of freedom? Because all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy." It was written during the Cold War. "Because none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets?" Right? These men are killed. "While we stand aside and look. Some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book." Right? And this guy. When we talk more about art reflecting global trends, this is by a graffiti artist. His name is Banksy. So he's super famous, but no one actually knows who he is. Um, like I don't know how to explain it. Like we know who he is. He is Banksy. We don't know what human is associated with the name Banksy. And so let's look at what he's done here. We see these kind of almost quasi religious figures, like not like as in they're gods or goddesses, but they look like they're straight out of a Renaissance painting of women who are mourning the crucified Christ. That's what they look like, and that's what they're made to look like. That was his intention. But they're not worshiping a savior, right? Their savior is the sign sale ends today, right? Their savior is shopping, is consumerism. So what is he saying with this, right? He's making this comment, this negative consumerism comment about how we essentially worship shopping, how we worship the sale, how that's what we're seeking, right? Look at the desperation of these women as they look kind of at this super urgent red and white text that says sale ends today. Here's another Banksy. Small African children. One is wearing this ripped up shirt that says "I hate Mondays." So let's talk about that, right? We joke a lot about how, oh, Monday, it's the worst. Gosh, what a Monday. Oh, Mondays, you know? Um, we are lucky to say things like that, right? Because we have the joy of the weekend or the break of the weekend or what have you. We have these kind of typical white collar, experiences where we go to an office or to school or to somewhere Monday through Friday for these set hours. This is not an experience that if you are living in rural Uganda that you have, right? That is not the experience that you have. Even if you work right in hospitality, that is not the experience that you have in this country. So the fact that he's wearing this shirt is very kind of sarcastic, right? It also implies that it is a cast off shirt, that it is the shirt that you give to Goodwill, that no one buys at Goodwill. So then what did they do with it? They send it to Africa, where it is sold. And then people buy your cast off shirts. And so they end up wearing shirts like "I hate Mondays," even though A, they can't read English, and B, the concept of a weekend is not something that they have. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is consumer culture and how it became globalized and transcended national borders. And we're going to do that by talking about global brands. So the first one that I want to talk about is Superdry. So Superdry, let's look at the description. I think the description pretty much sums up globalized consumer culture. Inspired by a trip to Tokyo in 2003, Superdry fuses design influences from Japanese graphics and vintage Americana with the values of British tailoring. That's just like a whole thing, isn't it? The result, unique urban clothing with incredible branding and an unrivaled level of detailing. Such distinctiveness has gained the brand exclusive appeal, as well as an international celebrity following. Right? It's one of those brands that you see all over the world. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it. And then another way that I want to talk about what globalization would be instead of, well, brands going global, but then their reaction to their global market. So, like Subway here, right? Subway is all over the world, but let's see how they adapt. So, this is their menu from India. And you can kind of see, so a lot of people in India are Hindu, and because they're Hindu, they very well may be vegetarian, or if they're not vegetarian, they definitely don't eat beef. And if they are Muslim, then they don't eat pork. So ham is out, right? So that means your things like salami and stuff like that, they're out. Um, Roast beef is out. And this whole concept of a sandwich, right, is very Western. So how do they adapt it for an Indian market? So you can get this veggie chamois. They almost look like they're like falafel balls. Then you could get aloo patty, right? So aloo is like a potato. A veggie patty, paneer tikka, that's a cheese, and corn and peas on your Subway sub. And then over here, this is McDonald's menu from the Philippines. So you can see kind of how things have changed. So one, fried chicken. I have never been to a McDonald's that I haven't been to a McDonald's since 2012, but I haven't been to a McDonald's that had like fried chicken drumsticks. That's KFC if you want that, right? You got to go there. But it's a chicken McDo. Oh, that's nice. And it's served with rice. Over here, a two-piece served with rice. I've never been to a McDonald's that serves rice. So this is new for me. Also, big one, spaghetti, question mark. Right? So noodles are very popular in Filipino culture. They eat a lot of noodle dishes. So that's been transitioned into mixed spaghetti. Sure. Right. So these are examples of how consumer culture has changed and become more global over time.